Whiskey Wednesday. It's your boy, Bo Smitty.
And your boy, D Wood.
All right, tonight's topic is on the difference between fathers versus dads. The word of the week for tonight is family. Anytime you hear the word family, go ahead and join us in that drink. Now, Wood, tell us, what's the difference between a father and a dad?
So we would say a father is somebody that didn't have an active role in your life, pretty much a sperm donor. And a dad, on the other hand, is somebody that was active in your life, taught you morals, values, and also, whoop that tail a little bit whenever you needed it.
Absolutely. So now for me, I was actually born into a two-parent household. And then my mother and father split, and then my dad became more of a father. So I actually was raised with what I would call a father more so than a dad. Part of that was because he ended up doing some time, and then that kind of ended things. But there were moments here and there where he was kind of in and out. But the bond never really was quite developed completely, so he stayed more on that father's side. So what about you, bro?
So I grew up, fortunately I had a dad who was active in my life, but was not my biological father. So I grew up with a father and a dad, which it kind of taught me some things basically as to what I wanted to do and the role I wanted to hold in my kid's life. Mm-hmm. But also, it gave me that good structure to where, I didn't have to grow up with the mental stress or, having to worry who is going to be that male role model in my life, who's going to provide me with that structure, or who's going to be that person to make me feel like I have grown into a man or that I'm qualified to be able to set my kids up for success.
Absolutely. So now, you say you have children. So what role have you taken in their life?
So the role that I take in my kids' life, and I consider myself to be a dad. I consider myself to be a strong, positive dad in my kids' life. And I, if it's anything from listening to them, when they want to talk about stuff, and we all know kids sometimes they talk about nothing, but it's just about enjoying those moments and being active in their life to where they can always look back and say, my dad had a part in something that I was doing, to whether it was, something big or something small. But as we know, a lot of things that we think is small is really big to kids. Mm-hmm. So I want to hear what you think about, a father. What do you think a father role would be? Or what does that look like as far as being a father?
So a father, to me, like I say, in my experience, is somebody who they may even try to kind of be there initially. I don't think everybody wakes up and like, I'm just not going to be shit to my kids.
Most definitely.
You know what I'm saying? And I think there has to be, I would think, some effort into being a father opposed to being an active person in your children's life. I would like to think at least a good guy does not lay down with a woman and in the event that she becomes pregnant, it's just like, I'm going to be out.
Yeah. But I think too, you have a lot of men out there that they, not to say that they're good or bad, but they say, oh, I did this for my kid and I'm a good dad, and they want to be recognized as far as being a good dad, but really, aren't active. I think as far as being active in your kid's life, that's what distinguishes you from being a father and a dad, because you have some dads, I sent my kid this. I sent them money for clothes. I sent them Pampers. I sent them this. And it's just like, that's cool, but what role or what position are you holding in your kid's life to where they can see and say, this is my dad, or this is what my dad does, or this is what a dad does, and this is what I do, whenever I become a man and I want to be a parent, mm-hmm. What do I do as far as the role of being a dad?
Absolutely. So I think one of the things that kind of confuses me with the labeling of the father and the dad, because I had it backwards for a while.
Yeah.
I was always saying like the dad was the one who wasn't involved and the father was. And I think some of that is like the Father's Day thing.
Yeah.
Like, if I don't fool with you, why are we celebrating Father's Day?
Yeah.
So, what I'm saying? Maybe to kind of clear that up, maybe we should name it something else. Maybe it should be Daddy Day.
Daddy Day. But it's just like this though, and so what happens? Every time Father's Day come around, everybody's like, oh, go get your dad a card, or go get your father a card. And really and truly, like, they sending it to him, but it's just like, I don't want to get him a card, but it's like a courtesy. So I think it's a good name because it's just like, it's not, you're not actually doing it or, giving that respect to the person that's raising you, because you think a lot of people, they aren't really raised by their dad. By their father. Mm-hmm. So it's just like, hey, give him a little respect too. Say, kudos to him or whatever. But really and truly, the person that you're spending time with and that you're with on Father's Day, and the person you choose as a child, even though we're grown, we're still children to our parents, the person that you choose to spend that time with is the person that, you know, is ultimately enjoying it and getting the actual benefit of Father's Day. But then too, come on, now look at this. What about Omari? You are the father. so it's like, you get that, it all depends on, you know, how you want to look at it, but it's just like on that, they have created that, you know, fathers, you get that news and you behind stage or whatever, so.
Yeah, I wonder why Maury don't. I'm gonna hit up Maury and be like, Maury, why you don't say you are the dad?
You are the dad.
You are the dad.
You the daddy.
You the daddy. I'm the pappy. I'm the pappy.
I'm pappy. So I'll be the baby. I'll be the daddy.
Baby, I'm the daddy. That baby be mine.
Okay, so it brings me to this though. But for y'all, like, let us know if you grew up with a father or a dad. Please let us know. We want to kind of hear that and what we think, what y'all think. Let us know what y'all take is on it. But how about this though? You know, you have some dads or some fathers or some men that have a household and they have kids, but they aren't dads. Yes, that's their biological father. Yes, they have kids that are theirs in the household, but looking at this and man in the household or dad in the household, what do you think about that?
That's a little deep too, because it's kind of like, if you're that man that's in the house, you may feel like you're the dad, or a good dad, just simply because you pay bills or you there in the evening or however it go, but you may not actually be involved in that child's life. So I feel like it can go either way. You can be in the house with the child or the children and still be a father.
Yeah.
I don't think the separation necessarily makes the difference. I think you can sit right there in the house every single day and still be a father.
Because it goes back to what we pretty much said, and it's being that active role. Because I have friends and I know people that pretty much, you know, they can't even tell me what their dad's favorite color is. They can't tell me what their dad like to do. Only thing is, oh, my dad work in the garage, or my dad do this. So I think that being active is the main ingredient to distinguish you, whether you're a father or a dad. And like I said earlier, I don't think sending Pampers and sending stuff, or hey, I had to get them, so I had them over my mom's house for this amount of time, I'm active. No, not really. You're just doing something that you're told to do. Because as we could both say, you know, because we're both dads, it's rewarding. Being a dad is rewarding. And being able to, you know, see those things and be and witness and actually be a part of the small things and the small accomplishments. But to me, the biggest thing to me was just to getting to know my kid's personality.
Right.
And you kind of see like, oh, dang, they kind of just like me, but like, in a sense, like, dang, they better. Or it's more pure. You get to see that and see them develop into that. Mm-hmm. So
with your upbringing, how did that impact the way you view being a dad or a father?
So my dad was very active in our lives, and although, you know, my dad was it still is a hardworking man, and he's always on the grind, always doing something, always making money. So, you know, I love him. But I think it really showed me how to be able to manage and multitask, because a lot of people at times are like, oh, I don't have time, or oh, there's not enough time in the day. But really and truly, like my dad, you know, from playing sports to having barbecues to, you know, going fishing, it has taught me that it's about teaching your kids things by not just saying, hey, you know, this is how you do this and this is what you should do, but actually showing and being a part of it and having those laughs, having those, you know, tough times to where, you know, you may have just gotten in trouble, but then y'all go out and sit beside a pond and, you know, y'all develop those communication skills and you be able to, you know, cope and learn certain things of life, you know, learning how to talk to people when you're upset and talk to people, you know, in certain situations. So what about you? How do you feel like, you know, your upbringing as far as having a father, you know, how does that enable you to be a good dad?
So pretty much early on, I always knew that I wanted to be a dad.
Yeah.
Like, and I always felt like my father, being fatherless, would have wanted to be a dad as well. But for whatever reason, that didn't happen. But my experience definitely motivated me to be a good dad to my baby, because all kids need it. I think sometimes we think boys only need their dad when they 16 and they starting to mess up in school.
Yeah.
And they cutting up. Then it's like, oh, go stay with your daddy. You see what I'm saying? And girls, I don't know, I guess girls need their daddies when they babies. I don't know how people kind of see the girl thing. But I have a girl. So she needs me now, you know, as a baby to show her what a man is supposed to be, how she's supposed to be treated from now until she's grown. And in that way, I can set the bar for what she's willing to deal with and willing to accept.
Exactly.
You're not going to be able to walk up on my baby and talk about, I'm going to buy you a car. Well, what kind? A 98 Toyota. Yeah. I was driving a Lamborghini at too. You see what I'm saying? So you're going to have to little power up your game all the way up. Because then nothing against the Toyotas. But the 98 Toyota in 2020 ain't going to get my baby. You know what I'm saying? So point is I'm showing her how a man should be, how he should treat her. What she should expect, how she should hold a man accountable, and just having that bond. There's no bond like the bond you have with your children.
Exactly.
Especially like a daughter's love for her dad is like unmatched, because that's like real love. That's unconditional. That is like, I love you just because who you are to me, and that's it. Nothing else matters.
So you have some cases where, you know, the dad isn't able to be right there and like living in the same city, living in the same state. So do you think, or would you say that being distant as far as miles or, you know, situation, does that enable you from being a good dad also?
No, I don't think distance matters, especially now. It's too easy to get on FaceTime, Duo, you name it, Skype, Zoom. It's like 1,000 ways where you can stay connected with your children nowadays. So there's really no excuse, in my opinion, to where you can't have that communication open to be able to develop those things with your kids, because there's too many ways, there's too many options. Now I get it. If you have a situation where your child is a baby, like my baby is still, she's a baby. So I still have to go through her mom in order to have that communication with her. But I think even with that, you can build that relationship enough to where at least you can call and she'll hand the phone over to the kids.
And so, and I kind of want to hit on that also, because I was saying being active a lot, and to me, active isn't like being present and, you know, being physically present. It's about having that mental presence, you know, being able to connect with your child mentally, as to where you can call and be like, hey, you know, hey, baby girl, what's wrong? Or hey, son, what's wrong? Just by being able to see their demeanor and to kind of see what they're talking about or their posture or whatever. But also, you know, that emotional. You have to be able to connect with your kids emotional, because kids grow up and they have a lot of emotions that they can't really explain. So being able to know and kind of sense what's going on and connect with them and kind of get them through tough times, I think that's a part of being active. That's a part of what kids need, you know, now and in the past and in the future. Mm-hmm. So I would agree, like, it doesn't enable you by being the physical distance doesn't disable you from being a good dad.
Right. So we both said a whole lot, and the one thing we both forgot to say was family.
Family. That's pretty good.
All right, so we'd like to hear from some of y'all. Go ahead, hit us with some comments, questions, so we can kind of get some of that feedback.
We don't want to get too far, and then, you know, y'all don't get a chance to chime in. So we kind of want to take it to a nice little question.
All right, so Lake Barnes says children need their parents, period. I think the problem is being too loose with just having kids and no foundation. So I'm assuming the foundation she means is the relationship between the dad and the father. I would agree. Sometimes we kind of run around too willy-nilly, just, you know, having fun and having experiences that we don't think about the long term or the second and third orders of effects of having a child. Yeah. And having a child is permanent. You know, it's permanent. So you will always have that child, you know, regardless. So you and that person will always have that connection. So if you're just doing that, you just, you know, running around and you're just making babies, that could be part of the problem. You don't even know that person. Now you're trying to grow into something else while they're doing their own thing and however it's going. And really and truly, the child is stuck in the middle. Yep. The child is stuck in the middle. And too many times we make it about the relationship between the parents and not the relationship of the child.
And you know, bro, and that it's really That's a really good point, and it's kind of getting me to think about, for one, obligations, and two, co-parents. So just on the obligation thing is, I've always looked at being a dad. I'm obligated to my kids because no child asks to be born. So when you think about your situation and you kind of get selfish and you're like, oh, I ain't asked for this, and I ain't, you have to be ready for the consequences. With every action comes consequences. And I don't want to say it, to be harsh or make it sound harsh with kids being consequences. But the thing is, when you have sex, that's a possibility.
Right.
And a lot of men don't look at it as, I have to, I now have obligations. They look at it as, I'm not ready. I said I wasn't ready. I didn't agree to this. But it's a consequence that you have to step up, and you now have your first obligation, because the way I live life is, I am only obligated to my kids. And because I have to provide for them, I have to do everything because they didn't ask for it.
Right. So I always make the joke to my mom about how I was chilling, bro. I was in heaven. I was in heaven. I had my own cloud. I hadn't even got to the point I had wings. I was chilling. And then she brought me down here. She brought me down here. I was in heaven, bro. I was kicking it big time. I didn't care about no Wi-Fi. I didn't have no worries in the world. And they disturbed my peace by bringing me to this earth with the COVID-19.
All the COVID.
Man, I was chilling big time. So one more from Sheila. She said, what was the biggest change you had to make personally after having your children?
Ooh, that's a good question. So me, I always knew, like Bo said, I always knew that I wanted to have children. So I kind of always structured myself to be able to learn as a parent, but to better myself as a man, to be able to provide for my kids, what they needed financially, what they needed mentally, what they needed emotionally. So, once I had my first son, it was just a matter of learning that, for one, kids are resilient. All right, kids, they, in the process of you learning, they kind of teach you that, how life is fragile, but also like it's fun. So I wouldn't say for me, I didn't really have to change anything other than the dynamics of my house, as far as, baby proofing and like buying Pampers, buying diapers, and buying food and stuff like that. But as far as mentally, I was kind of already there.
So I'm actually the exact opposite. I didn't really think I would ever have kids. Matter of fact, I can remember being a kid saying, I'm going to be a bachelor and I'm going to ride motorcycles. That was like, I don't know how I knew that at 6.
Yeah.
But at 6, that's what I was on. I was like, I'm going to be a bachelor and I'm going to ride ninjas.
Oh, biker boy.
Right, I was specific. I said ninjas. Ninjas. And I rode ninjas for a long time. But anyway, so I was not on the Trojan wavelength necessarily, but I never had a problem with it. Like, I always knew in my head, if I had children, that I would be a dad to them and not a father, just because my upbringing. And I felt like I would always do my best, if I was ever in that situation, to give my kids everything that I possibly could, so they would have a good life and a good relationship with me and their mom.
Yeah.
Also, I always wanted my kids to have the same parents. Nothing against nobody who that ain't their situation, but me and my siblings had the same parents. So I always felt like kids should have the same parents if I was going to have kids. You see what I'm saying? So that would have also been my goal, but that comes with like marriage, of course. You see what I'm saying? Even though that was not my situation with my child, but still, ideally, I would like my children to have the same parents, even though it probably won't be like that if I was to have one.
So, bro, I got a question, and this is kind of like out of like our norm, but a question just thrown out there that I kind of thought about. So, how do you feel about dudes, trying to make a relationship work for the kid and it negatively impacting or affecting the kid?
The dude or just
either
one?
As far as being a father, or being a dad, or wanting to be a dad, and making a relationship work, or sticking around to kind of like force, I want to create a household to where there's mom, dad, and baby. So how do you think that could affect you being an effective dad?
Well, I feel like this. I feel like kids know.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're trying to force a relationship, kids a lot of times are more aware and have more sense than we give them credit for. I think a lot of times we kind of think, oh, they too young to understand. yeah, they might be young, but they feel the vibes. Babies and everybody feel vibes.
Exactly.
So if the vibe is off because you're trying to force a situation just to say, "Oh, we together," well, really and truly, you're probably hurting more so than you're doing any good in some ways.
Yeah.
Because you still may have that opportunity to be in a house and still be actively involved. So they can say, "Oh, well, my dad was here every day. You know, he took me to school. Mom, we made dinner. However it's going." So that could still be a thing. And in some regards, it could be a positive situation. But in some ways, it could be negative if it's a forced situation to where the parents aren't happy, but they just stand for the kids. So, with that being said, is that something you would do, or would you just be out? Would you be like, you know what, this ain't working. I know we got babies together, but it's time to go.
As I said, like my obligation is always my kids. So I think one thing that dads miss or fathers miss is sacrifices. You have, in order to be what your child needs, because especially if it's your first child or you only have one child, you don't know. Even though I could say that I was ready and I was prepared, I still didn't know what to expect. I still didn't know what I was getting into. So I think the biggest thing that I learned was being able to make those sacrifices and not making sacrificing certain things so hard. Because at the end of the day, the reward is your kids.
Right.
And I say that, and I'm gonna tell a quick story if you don't mind. So
I don't mind.
So quick story. I know my stories get a little long, you know what I'm saying, when we have our little chill. But so my son, my oldest son, he was my first, of course, he's my oldest, but he I adjusting to being a dad and adjusting to, you know, moving around and new jobs, new positions. I used to have like tough days, man, and like it's nothing more rewarding than to be able to come home and like I would come home and it was our thing. It was always our thing, you know. I would come home and he would be like, "Hey, Dad, hey, what's up?" And he would be like, "How was your day?" And mind you, my son was like 2 years old. He was like 2.5, almost 3 years old, and he could have that conversation to it, and it was just, "How was your day?" It was good. "How was your day?" It was good. And so that became our thing, and it was rewarding. And it was rewarding because I remember one time I had a bad day. I had a really bad day, but I came home and I'm pretty sure he was napping. And so I was sitting on the couch, and when he woke up, he came to me and he was like, "Hey, Dad," he was like, "How was your day?" And I was like, you know, looking at him and knowing I have obligations. So even though I was having a bad day, I could explain to him my day, but he wouldn't know what that means. So I was like, you know, I had a good day. And he was like, "Oh," and I was like, "How was your day?" And he was like, "Good." And like why I say it was rewarding, because I learned in that instance that no matter what happens throughout your day, you still have obligations, and to them, you are still a person. You are still in a position, and you are still this figure to where it doesn't matter what goes on outside this house. I see you as this magnificent person, and I care about this communication, this line of communication, whether you understand or I understand or not. It's about you being this person in my life to where when I see you after you being gone for a long time, I can sit down and have this interaction with you, and that makes my day.
That's kind of deep. That's kind of deep. But you know what that sounds like? It sounds like you have a really awesome family. All right, so another question came from Zach. If your kid grows up and likes the opposite sex, would you feel like you failed as a father or dad? We're dads.
Oh, wow.
I don't even know.
That's a loaded question.
Yeah, that might be another show.
So you know what though? I'm gonna address this because my kids are still young, and I can't say this. I can't really say how I would feel. But I would say right now in this moment, if my son came home and that was the topic of choice, I wouldn't feel like I failed, because you have to think about all of the outside influences. As to where back in the day, there wasn't this whole "it's okay" and acceptance at school and, you know, all these other outside influences to where people are saying, you know, their opinion on it. So me personally, I wouldn't feel like I failed. I would just feel like I need to communicate with him, talk to him, give him that structure based on what I believe, based on, you know, acceptance. I think no matter what, I would accept my child. As far as them still being my child, I would accept it, but it's just you have to know how to structure that in y'all's because it becomes a new relationship. Because a lot of parents would be like, oh, I'd accept them and we'll go on and whatever. Me personally, I would always accept my child, but as of course the dynamics of our relationship would have to change, and it depends on their age too. If my 6-year-old comes to me and say, then it's a whole different conversation versus if my 17-year-old comes to me and says the same thing.
So that's one of those ones. I'm gonna just go ahead and hit it with the next slide. I mean, it's tricky because it's kind of like beliefs versus kind of like what's
it's a lot
acceptable in society. You know what I mean? But
it's a lot.
I'm gonna love my baby regardless.
I would never bash a group. I would never bash my kids, but you just have to go based off of beliefs. What you believe in, and if the relationship is important to you, I honestly believe that you will find a way to kind of either cope with it, make that sacrifice, or learn how to coach them into really getting to understand it. If it's something that they really like, then you have to be willing to make that sacrifice. If it's something that is just like, oh, everybody's doing it at my school, then you have to be able to communicate with them and show them. But I think if you give them that structure and you kind of talk to them and you stay active in their life about stuff like that, it's just like, so to me, I think that being a dad, I have made the promise to my kids that I will always be honest with them. Always. I will always be honest. We will always have honest conversations. We will always talk about, whatever. I would never sugarcoat anything. And I think that's a lot of times where people struggle is they sugarcoat it and they don't really understand. So then they be like, oh, well, my dad told me this and he didn't really go into it because he was trying to protect me. And then you go far left. And now it's something that you feel like you have to attack aggressively. But
yeah, it's definitely more common. I don't feel like it's an issue. I mean, what you do is what you do. But I feel like one thing that we have to remember, somebody had to tell me this. When you speak sexual orientation, all you're talking about is what they do, what you do sexually.
Yeah.
You're really speaking to what you do in the bedroom.
Yep.
You're not speaking to who you are as a person.
Nope.
You're not speaking at, how you act and all those things. It has nothing to do with that. All it means is what you do in the bed. And really and truly, I don't want to think about what my daughter's doing in the bed. I don't. So whatever you're doing in the bed, I don't need to know anyway. So you can just leave me out of that. But not like in all seriousness, like at the end of the day, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You're still gonna love your kids regardless. And
I don't think I would consider that to be a failure.
yeah, it's definitely not a failure.
So.
It's definitely not a failure because just because you like the same sex doesn't mean you're a failure.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's just your choice. That's just what you're into. So yeah, I see it like that too. So one of the things that I wanted to discuss because me and you had this in common. We're both juniors.
Yes.
Right? We are both juniors. And we have both talked about how we had fathers. Mm-hmm. Well, your situation is a little different.
Yep.
But we both had fathers. The person that you're named after
mm-hmm.
is a father to you. Mm-hmm. The person that I'm named after is a father to me. So how do you feel about being a junior with having a father?
So that's also a loaded question. All right, but it's about to get deep.
Set up.
It's deep.
Set him up.
So the thing about it is I have no ill feelings towards my father. I love my father. Because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be here. And so I don't have ill feelings against him. But the thing is, I think it was disappointing to me because I am big I'm big on family history. I'm big on legacy. My whole thing when I started having kids was I wanted a legacy. Mm-hmm. And not being able to have a junior, because it's not my name, it's his name. So by naming my son the third, or however you go about it, by giving my son my father's name, I'm honoring him. And I think that's not an honor that you just give to somebody. That's something that has to be earned. So I think at first it was kind of disappointing. But I think that's just one of the things that that's just sometimes how the cookie crumble. I don't think my mom meant anything bad by it. I don't think anybody thinks like, hey, you're not gonna hold the position. But I don't dislike being a junior, but I just think that I missed out on an honor to give to, my father. Being able to carry on that name.
Right. So for me, I'm kind of the opposite because I feel like, yes, I'm a junior, but I'm creating my own legacy.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I have the same name, at this point, I'm setting up my own success. And it's separate from what he did. He was successful or successful in his own right,
Mm-hmm.
but that doesn't have anything to do with me because he didn't instill the things that make me successful into me, right?
True.
So when I have my son, if I get to that point,
Yes.
if I was to ever have a son, because I'm big on, one of the things he did always instill in me was having my junior. So
Yeah.
he's big on like pride and names and stuff like that. So I definitely would name my son after me.
Mm-hmm.
But he would not be the third.
He would be the second.
No, he would not be none of that. My son, if I have one, will be Bobby Smith 2. T-O-O. Bobby Smith 2. T-O-O. I will probably be the first person on the planet to ever do that.
Yo.
But my son will be Bobby Smith 2. T-O-O 2. As in also. Not 3. We're not doing 3.
Yeah.
Because 3 is counting 1.
So listen.
But I'm 2. So we gonna skip 2, the 2 part, and go to the 2 part, which is the always part.
But they don't even have, so like when you feel like because everything is digital now. They don't even have that on a drop down.
It's not gonna be in a drop down.
So how do they fill that out on a resume?
You're gonna have to write it. I don't know, but you know what? It's gonna be on there. If you can name yourself Ocho Cinco and Metal World Peace and all that, my son could be Bobby Smith 2.
T-O-O.
T-O-O, bro. Bobby Smith 2. Don't be trying to steal that. I know
Bobby
y'all out there
Smith
trying to steal
also.
my name. Don't be stealing my stuff.
Wow.
Because really and truly, at the end of the day, I'm creating my legacy, and I love my name.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So just because my experiences with my father, it doesn't mean that I don't want to pass on what I got going.
Yeah, most definitely.
But I definitely agree with what you're saying. I don't necessarily want to honor that portion, but I'm honoring myself.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So we go on with the 2. Because ultimately, I want to have a big, nice family. Bars.
That is definitely funny. I never thought of it like that. But I think, so to go back to, the whole family aspect of it, I really...
Got me on the smoke.
Mm-hmm. I really am big on legacies. So I feel like me giving them or carrying on, my last name, I feel like that is, that's my doing. That's me playing my part. And some of us, we not, direct. We like to do it behind the scenes. So I think that's me, carrying on my legacy and being indirect with something to be proud of, something to hold on to.
Okay. I mean, yeah, I can see that too.
So I kind of want to get into this now. So we all hear the whole thing of, absent father or active dad. So let's kind of get into the positive and negative effects to it. So what does it look like a child? Because me growing up in the South, I hear it all the time. You your daddy's son.
Boy, you your daddy's son.
You your daddy's son. So
yeah, and you looking at him like, who is he? Who? How you know? I've been looking for him, but you got all these details.
What store was you at?
Where was you at when you ran into him? Can I get the directions? I'm gonna pull up. Maybe he's still there.
What store was you at when you seen him? Tell him I've been waiting.
Tell him I'm gonna pull up. What time he be there on a regular? What?
So what does it look like in a kid? So being a kid, so how does that look like? How can you tell whether a kid had an active dad or a father, or does it even play a part?
Well, I think every person has the choice. You get to a point in your life where you get to choose. Is it going to be a crutch for me, or am I just going to move on and it's just going to be something that I learn from?
Most definitely.
Right, so you can go through life and use that as an excuse. Oh, well, my life ain't turned out this way because my dad wasn't there. We can all say that probably at some point in our lives. Mm-hmm. If you look at my life, I'm what the government wanted for black community.
Yeah.
My father went to prison at a young age. Single parent household, the whole thing. So I have all of that in my background. Mm-hmm. I could have easily been those things. Like I could have easily been in the system, locked up, selling dope, you know, whatever. I could have done any of those things. And probably easy, because I probably could have pulled up somewhere and be like, hey, I'm Bobby's son.
Exactly.
Let me get that. You know what I'm saying? And it probably could have went like that.
That's true.
But I made the choice to take that negative and make it into a positive and say, okay, you know what? This is not what I want for my life. And also, in the same breath, me being like that positive person to my brother's life, I didn't want that for his life.
Exactly.
And I knew he was going to rock with whatever I was rocking with. If we was going to be in the streets, he was going to be right next to me. If we was going to be playing sports, he was going to be on the court with me. So we chose to get on the court and do other things. So I feel like you can do with it whatever you want. You know, you take it and you just grow from it and let it make you better. Or you can use it as your excuse for your entire life, and you carry that resentment, and then that's always just your excuse to be subpar. So
yeah. So, and you know, the thing that I don't like is, you know, girls kind of get it rough. Because whenever girls choose to be free and be open and to, you know, have their own choice, the whole thing is, oh, you got daddy issues. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think that should be a direct reflection of a dad or a father, because I've known some females where they have dads that are active, you know, everywhere, you know, questioning every guy they meet, whether it be a friend or a boyfriend, you know, doing whichever, however, and the girls still choose to be, you know, free and have their own choice, but it doesn't make them a bad person. And then also on the opposite end, where you have girls where they have absent fathers, and they still turn out to be great citizens and choose to be shy or whichever. So I think females get that kind of rough whenever it's the whole, oh, you got daddy issues or you got father issues or whatever. And I don't think that should be really a thing.
Yeah, so, I mean, I know what you're saying, because I know people with good upbringings, two-parent households, and they're, you know.
You almost said it.
About that.
You almost said it. You almost said it.
But again, those are just choices. Those are just choices that they make. Those are just the choices that they make.
Oh man.
They do not have to go down that path.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I don't think it should be a direct reflection. So yeah, that's it. So all right. So let's do this. All right. So I met, like, in person, actually got to hang out and spend time with my father when I was 21 years old. So I had seen him before, I had talked to him before, but I never really had that, like, you know, spend time with day upon day, you know, hanging out, spending the night with, stuff like that, until I was a grown man. And one thing I could remember saying was, you know, I'm already a man, so there's nothing that, you know, you can teach me as far as being a man or being a dad, because that time is gone. So when it comes to a father, can they come back to a point, or what is the cutoff, or if there's a cutoff, to, I was a father, I want to be a dad now?
I don't think there's a point. I think you just have to have willing parties. And depending on maybe the situation, that may kind of alter the mindset of how you see it. But in my experience, in my situation, my dad was kind of there, like in and out, kind of off and on. But the opportunity he had to kind of be there full time and to make, or to grow and to develop the bond, it just didn't happen for whatever reason. But I do definitely feel that responsibility falls on the parent. And the reason I feel that way is because I don't feel like, as the child, regardless of age, I don't feel like the child should drive that connection, because depending on what point you're at, I may be doing that with my own kids.
Yeah.
So I feel like if that's something that the parent kind of regrets and wants to fix, I feel like that is on them. Now, of course, the child in this scenario would have to be willing to accept that, and to allow them to come in and to kind of rebuild, because at this point, you may be a grown adult. You may be an adult. So really, the way I kind of see it is, what do I need you for at this point? The stuff that I needed you for, that time is come and gone. And either somebody filled that void, or however we got through it, but it's gone now.
So the one thing, like, because me and my mom, we kind of have conversations a lot about, like, this topic, just because of, you know, my family dynamics. And I honestly told her, like, when it came to, like, if nobody would have ever told me, like, hey, this is your family dynamics. You have a father here. This is your father. Like, my first birthday, I remember my dad. Not my first birthday, but my first birthday to remember was my dad threw me my Barney birthday party at Dairy Queen. You know what I'm saying? And it was lit.
What was it?
At Dairy Queen. You know what I'm saying? Because Dairy Queen had the ice cream.
It had the ice cream.
It had the ice cream cake, you know what I'm saying, with the big purple Barney on it. but yeah, so like if nobody would have ever told me that, like, that's what I remember. But even to this day now, like, that's my dad.
Right.
Nobody can tell me whatever. They could say whatever, y'all don't have the same last name, whatever. That's my dad. You know what I'm saying? So it's a thing of, I think that, like you said, as long as the child can accept or give you that acceptance, then there could be some change depending on age. But I think whenever you have a father, you can't, after time, the more time, you can't cross back over and say, oh, I'm ready to be a nano, because there's certain things that you've already learned.
Right. So with that, would you allow today, at this point, with the family that you have, would you allow your father to come back in and be actively involved with your children?
That's a good question. And I honestly, like I said, we have talked about that. I have no issue with my father being in my kid's life, because now it's a different role. You're not a father, you're not a dad, you're a granddad, or you could be a grandfather.
Ooh, I see what you did.
You see what I'm saying? So it's just like, that's totally up to you. So where you see I made these mistakes as far as being a dad, I could still be a granddad. But if you choose to just father it out, then
grandfather, I'm gonna just see this father thing you throw.
Hey, I've been a father. I'm
gonna just rock out. I'm gonna just rock out.
Great grandfather
from now all the way to the end.
But yeah, I honestly don't have a problem with if that. It's new. It's really your turn. To make that change, and to have that. I messed up. I realize I messed up. I am going to fight tooth and nail to be a part of the legacy that you have created for our family name. You see what I'm saying? So that was deep.
I mean, I would let my father be a granddad, but it would come with some conditions.
Okay.
Because at this point, like now, I'm in control of
most definitely
the heartbreak and the disappointment.
Oh yeah.
Right. So you don't get to just sell these false hopes and false dreams and I'm gonna pick you up and don't shows and I'm gonna call and don't call. Like, you don't get to do that. You know what I'm saying? So if I'm going to allow you to be a granddad to your grandchildren, you don't get the opportunity to flip the switch and go to grandfather. We're not doing that over here. If that's the case, just stay where you at. Exactly. And like we just said, rock out with the father thing.
I'm gonna just father it on out.
Father it all the way through.
Father it out.
You know what I'm saying? And just do that. And don't wait until you're on your bed somewhere and you about to go, you know what I'm saying, meet Jesus. You're talking about, I want to, Nah, G. Don't even worry about it. We're not even gonna bring that up for nothing. Just let that thing go.
But it's kind of one of those things, like we said, like kids are smart. So if your kids go to Nana and Papa house, periodically on a regular, then they know who Nana and Papa is.
Bars.
And then you take them to Papa Father house.
Mr. Joe. Mr. Joe, your grandfather.
You know what I'm saying? And but then too, so how do you feel about this? How do you feel about a grandfather, that's not active? I want her to call me Papa. I want her to, and if she chooses to call him, Willie Joe Lump Lump, do you make your child call him granddad?
I mean, I wouldn't. So I was still gonna show the respect, regardless of the situation. Like I would still give Mr. Smitty the respect that he deserves.
That's the respect.
This is Mr. Smitty right here.
This is Mr. Smitty.
Mr. Smitty. Nah, really and truly, if they're trying to build that bond, I wouldn't go as far as to say, nah, you're not gonna call him Grandpa. You're gonna call him Mr. Smitty. I wouldn't do him like that. I wouldn't want nobody to do me like that. So I'm gonna let them go with the grandpa, you know, however it's going. So I'm cool with that. I don't have no issue with that. But what I'm tired of seeing, bro, like in my family specifically, all these women and no men. All these women and no men. I'm one of those people, I was raised around a lot of women.
Yeah.
I'm talking about, I done had, bro, great grandmas, grandmas, you just pick a grandma. I grew up with all of them, the greats, the super greats, and the ultra great grandmas. I had all of them. No grandpas. Well, I had some grandfathers. I had a grandfather, and then I had the one that was in the house, that was just in the house.
Yeah.
But I didn't have there's no dudes.
Yeah.
My uncles is MIA. I can name them, but my bond with them is, you know, few and far between. It's just all women, like all the people I'm close to, connected to, my aunts, my grandmas, my cousins that are females. It's just no dudes.
Yeah. Like
nowhere. The only real man that's been in my life consistently is my brother.
Yeah.
And he didn't have a damn choice. Boy, you're not going nowhere.
You're here.
You're here.
Stay.
Permanently. Indefinitely. So I'm just tired of all the women. So man, we need to step up and stop playing. Cause we need y'all.
Most definitely.
We're needed out here for real.
So yeah, so Miss Sheila Bird, she asked, as the head of the family.
She put it in the thing.
What is the most important values you hope to instill?
For me, it's gonna be family. Probably just family. Dang, I said it twice.
You said it twice.
Probably just so when I originally said that you know, respect, loyalty, being honest, you know, all the stuff that you want to make a good, productive person for society, and still be about family.
So, with that said, bro, I think that I think we pretty much kind of made a cut and dry of what a father is and what a dad is, and the encouragement is don't always think, hey, you know, just because I have contact with my child's parent or mother, I am a good dad. You have to be active in your kid's life. You have to, you know, be there to, even if it's, you know, a quick conversation on morals. What do you like to do? What do you like? What do you want to do when you get older? You know, what are you trying to be? Instill those good values, those morals in your kid. But don't be the type of father to where I just want to come around for discipline. I only want to be around to discipline my child, and that's what they see as that father figure. My father only comes around when I'm in trouble.
Or don't wait for me to get big in football and then be trying to show up because you think I'm going to the league.
That's true. Facts.
So we like to go ahead and we like to take a moment to thank our sponsors and everybody for tuning in. So let's shout out Shamika B Body for all your waist beads needs. She can be reached at Shamika B Body on Facebook and Instagram. Also, we would like to shout out Sona Bell for all your skincare products. She can be reached at sonabellcosmetics.com.
We would also like to thank everybody that watched tonight. We really appreciate everybody. Make sure you go follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Whiskey Wednesday _. To be a part of the conversations that we have on Wednesday at 7 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time.
And always remember, real men,
real conversation.